Hi, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. I'm Anastasia, content strategist and producer of this webinar series. I've been working closely with .art on projects that bridge art, technology, and storytelling, and I'm super excited to moderate this discussion. NFTs remain one of the most polarizing topics in the art world. Some see them as the future of digital ownership, while others dismiss them as a speculative bubble that has burst. We even received criticism about hosting this webinar. People emailed us asking, why are you still talking about NFTs? Well, here is why. NFTs didn't die, they evolved because institutions, artists, and collectors are still experimenting, innovating, and finding new ways to use blockchain. Today, we're here to explore what's working, what's not, and what's next with our amazing speakers. We'll hear from 6 of them, and they're all shaping the space from different angles. We're going to be joined by Aleksandra Art, who is head of art at Trilitech and who is driving blockchain-powered art initiatives at Tezos. She has also co-founded an NFT-based humanitarian aid project. We'll also hear from Kika Nicolela, a curator at object.com, who is deeply involved in digital curation and new media art and is an artist herself. There will be Amir Soleymani, also known as Mondoir, an artist and collector who is building real-world community-driven NFT experiences and has a physical art space in Dubai, which hosts a lot of digital art exhibitions. We'll be joined by Markus Wiesenhofer, who leads the Belvedere Museum groundbreaking Klimt NFT project, which you can find at thekiss.art. And it's one of the most successful museum-led blockchain experiments to date. We'll be with Debbie Soon, who is the co-founder of Hug and author of Digital Mavericks, a book that was recently published and really gives you an opportunity to learn about Web3, even if you don't understand anything about it. And last but not least, we'll be joined by Martin Ostachowski, an artist and crypto art historian and researcher who has meticulously documented the history of Web3 and the evolution of digital art practically ever since it evolved. It should also be noted that the Web3 space and the art community have also been deeply interconnected, with many visionary adopters choosing .art as their digital home. Notably, we have with us World of Women, which you can find at wow.art. They're empowering women in the decentralized future through premier networking, impactful experiences, and capital formation. There is OG.art, which is an innovative platform and launchpad for dynamic NFT art collections. And they were actually the brainchild of the Snark.art agency. And lately, we also found out that the Moco Museum is hosting its official NFT platform at mocoverse.art. And of course, a lot of the speakers that we're joined by today also have .art domains. Very important, I'm not alone today. I'm joined here by Jonas, who, unlike me, is something of a Web3 veteran. He's been in Web3 for more than 5 years, I believe. And before I hand it over to Jonas to introduce himself, I just wanted to say that if you have questions on the topic, you can already start dropping them into the comment section on the YouTube stream. We're going to have a panel discussion at the end with all of our speakers, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Jonas, please introduce yourself. You're on mute.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this amazing introduction, Anastasia. I'm Jonas Kastenhuber. I'm the founder and curator of Callistic. Callistic.art is our domain. And we have been a catalyst at the intersection of art, technology, and society for projects that are having positive impact. The project included a lot of NFT projects, digital artworks that were NFT'd and sold for fundraising for sustainable issues. And my personal journey in the NFT space began in 2020 in the Web3 space. We were launching a platform back then to help artists during COVID to show their art and to tell their story online. And I was always interested more in the application of NFTs in the physical world. So I was always bridging those two worlds, the physical and the digital world. And this journey led me to being the deputy and co-CEO of Smart Sense, which is now using NFT technologies to identify and to authenticate artworks, physical artworks. So we managed the phygital, as you might have heard, dilemma that was always existent. So now I think it's really interesting to follow this technology's evolvement and the new use cases and where are we going and how are we going to proceed with this. And I'm really excited to hear all the speakers in today's panel and to ask them those questions for you so we all get a little bit wiser.
Getting a little bit wiser is always a good idea. So Jonas, please stay with me here, and I'm going to put our first speakers on stage. Hello, Amir. Hello, Markus. So, as I said, Markus is the Deputy Head of Communications and an NFT lead at the Belvedere Museum in Vienna. He has overseen the KISS project, which you can find at thekiss.art. And to date, as at least Markus told me, it's one of the most successful NFT projects in the museum community. They have raised over 4.5 million and sold almost 3,000 NFTs. So we'll touch upon that. And Amir is an artist, collector, and Web3 advocate. Jonas and I just saw him a couple of weeks ago at NFT Paris, but he's based in Dubai, where he has a beautiful physical gallery which hosts digital art. He has hosted events with people who are known in the Web3 community and outside of it, like Paris Hilton and Deepak Chopra. And his Mondoa Friends collection transforms NFT ownership into exclusive networking experiences. So we have a lot to talk about here. Markus, I'd like to start with you because museums, of course, in a way have been resistant to the Web3 wave. So I'm really interested to find out how such an institution, a famous one as the Belvedere, got to this point of venturing directly into it and creating this amazing project.
Thank you, Anastasia, and thank you very much for having me today. We are glad to be part of this, particularly also because we proudly use .art domain for the kiss.art. So yes, we might not be the obvious participant of such a panel. The Belvedere Museum is the Austrian National Gallery of Art, an institution that is over 300 years old. And we have a very specific mission. We want or aspire to be a museum that matters. And today, an institution that wants to be relevant needs to definitely evolve with the digital age and with digital innovation and stay relevant with new technology. So a couple of years back, being amidst the pandemic for the very first time, we were shut off our international visitors from all around the world. We receive over 80% of our visitors from around the world to see our highlights, like the Kiss by Gustav Klimt, the painting in my back, which is definitely one of the most iconic paintings. And being in that situation, of course, all museums all around the world accelerated their progress in digital innovation. And so did we, and looked for new ways to engage with global audiences on a digital way and a more innovative way to reach them with our content. And so we kind of searched the market and informed ourselves. By the way, also joined a Web3 fellowship supported by Tezos, which supports museum to dig deeper into the Web3 technology. And of course, for us, it was a big step to create a first NFT project. And we launched on Valentine's Day 2022. Highly successful with, in the hype phase of the NFTs. And very successful in also not only reaching a lot of international audiences and media and establishing the Belvedere and positioning the Belvedere Museum as an innovative leader, as one of the first movers in the field, but also selling 2,700 the KISS NFTs at a price of 1,850 euros, which is a relatively high mark, but we intended this project always to be kind of a network approach of building a community of holders that are connected through NFTs to our institution, to the artwork, to the artists. So now we have approximately 1,800 holders of the KISS NFTs already all around the world that are connected to our institution, that might not have yet visited us, but hopefully at least once in a lifetime will do so. And just this week on Tuesday night, we had a wonderful event, an exclusive event for NFT holders to see our new exhibition on Gustav Klimt's Pigment and Pixel. Those are the results of in-depth research on the methods that Gustav Klimt applied in painting. And such kind of events are exclusive for the KISS holders. They get an insight into the artworks, into the works of our collection. And I think it connects us very much on a very specific level to international communities. And around the KISS NFT projects, a lot of collaboration started. To name a few, we are part of Samsung's Web3 gallery, NFT gallery project. Or we are partnering with Ledger, the crypto world's #1 hardware wallet producers, with a special, the KISS limited edition Ledger Stacks model. We collaborated with acclaimed fashion designer Lee Sang-bong in Korea, who dedicated a whole fashion collection to the KISS. So there's a lot of projects that evolved on after this first stepping into an NFT project. And I'm very happy about it, that we could use this tool and this technology to create connections also in real life.
Yeah, let's go on with the, like, I love this part of the connecting as well, and like I think it's really great to hear that the museum did connect like this to a global audience. And like, for instance, Amir, you also were doing like a lot of community building with your practice as an artist on the one hand side, but also as a gallerist in a completely different part of the world. And like, I would love to hear how your journey started and like how you found your way into this space.
Thank you so much, Jonas. Thank you, Anastasia. And thank you so much, Markus, for all the beautiful explanation of the KISS NFT. And thank you for .art domain for hosting this this talk. And we need more of this. Please do more. When I started the NFTs, like almost everyone else, it was, and it still is today, unknown area. A lot of us are still figuring out what the technology is, how can it solve what kinds of problems, and why collectors would actually buy an NFT, why people should value digital art, and a lot of other aspects. For me, the community building aspect of this technology was really fascinating and had the most value. I even wrote a book on talking about my experience about how this unknown aspect of this technology, which is community, has helped me achieve lots of things that I wanted to achieve, and otherwise it would have been taken a lot of time to achieve. I was lucky enough to be part of this space in early days when Clubhouse was the engine behind all these hypes. I'm partly responsible for creating that hype. I was talking in a panel in Paris, and I said, I have to admit, I was responsible. I'm part of the team, part of the community that created all this hype. And soon enough, I started to realize the value that this community could bring into one of the hardest things that in business world is really difficult to achieve, and that is building a brand. For me, Mundoir was just a name that I was using on internet. And suddenly that name became a known brand. And as soon as I realized the value that this community had that could give to me as a brand, I started to build on that. And I've been able to create this brand as it's known today only because of this Web3 and NFT community. I started as a collector, and to me, it was fascinating, the kind of people that I could connect to. Getting a piece of art, I was able to connect to the artist, to the creator, and then after that to the platforms, to all those institutions that would enter this space and utilize the technology.
So you were wearing kind of like a lot of hats, no? Like you were like wearing basically all the hats that you can wear in the space. And I think what really is interesting for us is like the NFTs and it's like social capital, like as you both said, no, like you were both somehow coming into the space in a time when social capital culture was kind of dead. Like during COVID, there was just nothing happening. Clubhouse came up, you know, like you found new ways, digital ways, but those ways, they were the only ways to continue culture, to continue art. And like right now we're in a place, in a time where we can just travel the world again, we can go here and there. So what do you think, what's gonna be the future of the NFTs, and how are we gonna continue building this social capital, as in like memories, souvenirs of a museum visit, or like how do you see this future? Maybe Amir or Markus, whoever wants to answer this question.
I would make a comment. I've been asked the same question before, and in my mind, unless we learn what is the technology, what is NFT? Like if you go to the NFT community, as per se, and ask creators, collectors, platform owners, institutions, whoever entered this space, what is this NFT that you're talking about? A lot of people still don't know. And until we all start to learn the basics, what is an NFT? Because we haven't had time. This train was moving so fast, and no one had time to actually study, understand, and learn. The analogy that I would give is that now we should look at it not as a train that is moving fast, but as the track itself. So the technology is the track. The train is different projects, different things that we can do on this track, right? So there is no soon or late. We just need to find the proper use case for this technology. Of course, art and collectibles were the first to utilize this technology. But as we move forward, we're going to find different use cases for this technology. Art might not work out. Collectibles might die. We don't know. But the technology will never die. Technology is there. It's like internet. Different use cases, but we will find the use case. And one thing that I was telling to my friends was that find the area that this technology might work for you. Not look at it necessarily as creator or collector or institution. No, there are tons of other things that this technology can bring. For me, it was helping me building my brand. Of course, on artistic side, it helped me a lot. On collector side, it helped me a lot. But as you rightly said, Jonas, wearing different hats, knowing what kind of hat you need to wear. And I'm not telling use this space, but learn what this space is about, contribute what you can contribute, and of course, you will get a lot of value from this space. Thank you so much. Markus.
I love that. The train analogy and the track analogy. So which train are you riding on those track, Markus, and what's the future you see for museums, but also like your personal opinion?
Yeah, no, I totally like Amir's comments and would underline that. I think for me, the NFT technology is a tool, a possibility for making connections and engagement on so many other levels. So as I mentioned before, we had a couple of collaborations already. Last year, for example, every year we are celebrating the anniversary of our project and had a special project with digital artist Hato, who created Bitcoin ordinals and gave it away to the kiss holders as flowers on Valentine's Day. which was a wonderful appreciation of the art of Gustav Klimt and a new interpretation by Hato, and also became a highly successful collection on Bitcoin ordinals as one of the first ones. So we are always, stepping into new worlds or opening new doors that we don't know yet existed maybe before. But what remains is we have a new opportunity to connect the physical with the digital. So I think that will be also the future of NFTs once, and I'm a true believer of the Gartner hype cycle, where we overestimate always the effects in the beginning of new innovations, but we underestimate the profound changes that are happening. And the same will probably be with blockchain and NFTs. We are in it for the long run. We are an institution that has been around for a long time, and we believe in the technology and in the opportunities that it will bring on also in the future. So I can't predict the future that well, but I can only say it already brought a lot of opportunities for us, the Web3 scene as a whole, to connect with our content and refresh the perception of what a museum could be. So it's not only a physical place anymore. The museum is much more in many different levels and layers and dimensions than before. And one dimension could be NFTs, making new forms of creating digital engagement through NFTs. So that's my vision also for NFTs in the museum field. And any museum has
NFTs? Do you currently exhibit any NFTs at your museum?
Well, we have not in our permanent collection, but of course we have events. So I mentioned we have collaborations with the artist Hato last year that was presented at the Valentine's Day event, and we have a specific festival around digital arts, the Cyber Festival that takes place at the Belvedere 21, which is our contemporary art museum. And that also includes NFTs every now and then. So there's all kinds of VR, AR, metaverse related NFTs also included in the Digital Arts Festival.
So amazing. And Amir, you also have a show coming up. You were just like, when we started the call, actually in the 5 minutes before we went public, showing us the current show. Like what do you see as like cultural capital that you're building in Dubai with the shows, and like the social capital when all the people come together again and like the connections are forming? Just like a short answer from your heart, like before we go to the second chapter.
You know, what I always loved in my life was challenge. The reason that I chose Dubai to place my headquarters is that unlike other cities in the world, where art has a deep history of appreciation by the public, Dubai is yet to reach that level, right? And what I love here is to build on that momentum. I want to be part of the building of that culture here. So we have a lot of different exhibitions, different shows, different kind of artwork, especially contemporary art, and we are trying to introduce that to the community here. And as you know, local population here, they love art, they have a really deep culture, but expats, they are more into luxury side of Dubai. They love that side of luxury goods. But what we are trying to do is we are trying to teach them the beauty of art, the cultural value of art, and the change that art can bring into their lives, both as individuals for themselves and for future generations. So this is why I'm so excited of moving to Dubai, because I can build something here and be proud of leaving a legacy in one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Thank you so much, Amir. Thank you so much, Markus. Coming from very different spaces in the arts world, museum, gallery, collector, like we heard so much right now, and we're going on with the topic of redefining Web3, crypto art, and AI. Anastasia, please take it on. That's it for now.
Yes, I was mute. Amir, Markus, I'll see you at the roundtable, and I'm gonna add Debbie and Martin here. Hello, guys. As I mentioned before, Martin is an artist and a crypto art historian, which to me is fascinating because really he comes to the subject from both sides, from the practical and the theoretical. You can find out more about him at mlo.art, where he also has something, I believe, that's called the Crypto Art Timeline, which is a really good introduction if you want to just understand how the Web3 world came into being. Very comprehensive for somebody who wants to start somewhere. And Debbie Soon is the co-founder of Hug, which we are happy to have as part of the .art family now. And she recently published a book, which I have here. It's called Digital Mavericks. Have read the book in about 24 hours. Is great, especially if you know nothing about Web3, which was my case. So Debbie, thank you very much for doing this. And I'd like you to start with you. In the book, there is a part which I loved, especially because I'm a Harry Potter fan, where you say that the blockchain shouldn't be treated as Voldemort, the one who must not be named, and the artists really should have open conversations about it and be informed. So my questions to you is, how did it come about that you became a bit of a Harry Potter of the Web3 world and started informing about it?
I don't know if I'm the Harry Potter of the Web3 world, but that is a high compliment. But no, I think my perspective has always been that I think if we look throughout history and throughout the history of art, even when the camera first came out, I'm sure like painters felt very like threatened by the emergence of the camera, because all of a sudden they felt like, oh, my craft is going to get disintermediated. And then film photographers came out, and then the digital camera came out, and the quality wasn't that great. But definitely, I think then photographers felt, oh, I'm going to be threatened by the advent of the digital camera. And then now everybody has a camera in their hands, with phone cameras being so powerful. And then similarly, digital photographers then felt threatened by the onset of phone cameras. So I think when I look back through history, I think there is a lot of times when technology is always going to present itself. And there's really nothing that we can do to stop it, right? It's going to happen whether you like it or not. And so I think as creators, we owe it to ourselves to at least explore what all the different technologies are and how we can look to collaborate with the technology. And it may not be for everyone, right? And I think that's kind of what, I wanted to get across in my book, and why I kind of use that Voldemort reference, because, I've encountered a lot of, as we are building our Hug community, I've definitely encountered a lot of artists who they will even put on their Instagram bios, and it actually explicitly says no NFTs. And I wonder also for these individuals, and I'm not passing any judgment on them, but what is actually their level of understanding when they say no NFTs? Before they even put no NFTs in their bio, what is their actual understanding of NFTs? And why are they saying no NFTs, don't approach me at all if you even want to talk about the topic? And so I think from my perspective is that it's better to come from a place of understanding, better to come from a place of, here are the opportunities, here are the risks, here are the advantages, here are the limitations, here's what I can or what I can't do with NFTs. And it's better to have this wonderful platform that we have here to have some of those questions answered and discussed, rather than just kind of avoiding it altogether.
Great, thank you for this. And Martin, please talk a little bit about your entry into the world of Web3, which was, I think you said something like 2018, so fairly early. So you started off as an artist, and then you started this timeline and really documenting what's happening, right? Unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, sorry about that. I started experimenting when cryptocurrencies, there was this IPA hype where everybody was reading about all sorts of cryptocurrencies. It was around 2017. I started dabbling that year then with these first content platforms like Steemit, where you would basically, write or create and would kind of tokenize things. But really intentionally, it was in 2018. And back then I think among the first 20-30 artists in Super Rare on Origin when both platforms launched. and this space was very small, cohesive. We were all organized in one Telegram group, collectors, the few there were, all artists and all basically platforms. And it was kind of like a very small, nice community, which was very, very idealistic, right? And I think that really piqued my interest on one element, which was especially the technology behind it and its applications for the art world. About a year later, in 2019, we co-authored a position paper, like an academic position paper, on what crypto art is and its potentials. That got basically published in a journal a few years back, and that kind of led me into looking more into how did everything come about. And I think what fascinated me is it was in 2018 I was invited to present an artwork at the Canadian Centre for Architecture here in Montreal. I hoped to visit meet other artists, but I turned out I was the only one. So I was working a few months on like a generative piece, and when I launched this piece after several months, I discovered that Ria Myers did something similar like already 4 years before me, and that was kind of like a pivotal moment, because I thought like, okay, I cannot invest so much time in like conceptual projects not knowing where this space started or what has been created before. And that started really my curiosity and my interest in documenting basically the pieces or the relevant pieces and the history in some sort of like academic approach, right? Like not without sources, and really properly documented to kind of get a grasp of what has happened. And what started as like a blog post turned very quickly into a timeline. I think we're now around 500 published milestones, and there's about the same amount in unresearched or not fully documented backlog. So it's evolving. It's very time consuming, but it's still fun.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for showing us on like your journey into this space. And like I see like some of the clouds in the background, some of the artworks you used to explain as well, like blockchain technologies and like what you found out about it during your quest to kind of get deeper knowledge on this. And like Debbie, by the way, I love your nails. Like, good morning. It must be really early in San Francisco, or you're probably in LA. I think it's also amazing how your journey went. Like, you came from a very different place, I think more as a venture builder. And I would love to address like this one question you raised before, like no NFT in the bio of artists like Martin. No, like you probably really went deep into that space. Like what I understood back then, like some artists approached me and were like, can you explain me what this is? And some others were shocked because they actually were trapped. Like they were scammed from people that wanted to buy NFTs from them, led them onto platforms where they minted them and had to pay money for it. So I think there was like a lot of, let's say, controversy and like also a lot of dark energy in the space where people just abused this. Like what's your sense? Like, I mean, Debbie, you must have with the Hug, I think you have a huge, vast community, and you did a lot of education in this space to get the people to, like Martin, dive deeper. But you need to, I think, first be able to structure the knowledge in a way and to prepare it so that you can communicate it. No, like as Martin just explained, it's not necessarily a doctoral thesis to break into the space. How did you do that, Debbie? And did you get some people to change their subtitle on Instagram?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's I'll address the scam question because I think that is like such an important point. And definitely some concerns are definitely valid. And I know artists, not just artists actually, I just know people in general that have been scammed by crypto. I think I've been like victim of, like, thankfully not a big scam, but I've also been victim of like a small scam. And usually if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I think it's the one thing to remember. But I think one thing I tell a lot of people when they naturally associate all things NFTs and all things crypto with scams is I have to remind them that there are actually scams everywhere. Like, I don't know if you still, I mean, I still get phishing emails. I still get scams from like people pretending to be my bank and like, like prank phone calls and all of that kind of stuff, right? So like I mean, it's cliche, but the Nigerian prince email, right? So like there's scams everywhere. There are going to be bad actors everywhere. So I think that's the one thing that I remind everyone of. Like, you just have to be careful in general of scams on the internet, and like NFTs is just one of them in particular. Like I see that as a question here of like, how does somebody handle scammers? I would say like, do a lot of like, just be really, really careful if someone, and these days there are scams take kind of different like forms, right? Like I recently got approached by someone pretending to be a recruiter, and then they kind of give you like a scheduling link, and the scheduling link doesn't really look like kind of looks like a Calendly link, but doesn't really look like a Calendly link. So it's like one of those things where you just have to be a little bit on high alert, see if you have any kind of mutual connections, try and verify as much as possible. And again, this is not to say that this is only an issue limited to NFTs. This is an issue related to being on the internet when you're not entirely sure who is on the other side of it, when when we're not like this, where we're all live and can see me, talking to you. But I think, I think with regards to kind of convincing artists, like, I think, like I said, I think what we try to do is that, and in all of our education practices, it's always just encourage people to have an open mind. Like I said, it's not always going to be the right solution for everyone. And I love what was said in the previous discussion about how like NFTs are just rails, right? At the end of the day, it is just the underlying technology. And another analogy that I like to use, and maybe I'm dating myself, but when I was younger, we used to kind of illegally download MP3s off the internet through LimeWire or like Napster, and we would make our own little CDs and mixtapes and exchange it with friends. And back in the day, we used to talk to each other and say like, hey, what NFTs did you download today, or what MP3s did you download today, or what MP3s are you listening to? At the end of the day, it's not MP3s, we're just listening to music, right? Like we're just consuming music that happened to be in a particular file format. So I say the same thing is the case of NFTs right now. Maybe it's a little bit of a branding problem, but like we look at NFTs like as a single label for all things art related that is on the blockchain, which could not be further from the truth, right? And for those who don't know, like the California Department of Motor Vehicles have actually moved on to putting all of your title deeds, so like car ownership stuff, as NFTs. So like those are completely different NFTs from art NFTs, right? But they're still NFTs, but at the end of the day, they're title deeds, not NFTs. So I think it's one of those where we try and like really emphasize that it is just the underlying technology, and like you just try to wrap your head around that, and then figuring out, does my work live better on chain as an NFT, or does it live better physically? Or like what we mentioned in the previous discussion, is there a phygital like connection where it could be both?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's so important to see that like this technology is not just bound to the art world, and like just because of PFPs and monkeys and apes and whatnot, it's not like that's not the only domain, but it has been a domain. And like I think, Martin, like your domain is not cars NFTs, but clouds. Like I love that you NFT'd clouds, and you looked in the sky and you were like, okay, this is how I can explain the blockchain and like the NFTs to the art world, or to my audience, whoever it is, and I would love to I was wondering when I read your bio, how do you do that? Like, and how do you think like this can redefine Web3 in the future? And like, what is like a redefinition that we need to do? Like Debbie said, like seeing a bigger kind of scope of this technology, but also seeing what it can deliver to the artist.
Yeah, I think it's for me, blockchain technology is not just a tech. It's like a mixture of a lot of things. It's like philosophy, it's finance, it's really an entire belief system. And I think you will find that a lot of people who are longer in the space are some sort of like activists. And I think we spoke about it in an earlier call. That doesn't mean that people who are not activists, this is not a valid use case for NFT, because it's absolutely valid to do with it what you want. You just saw that people are like differently invested in promoting this technology as some sort of societal change, right? Because we are privileged to live in some sort of Western world where we do not experience the problems this technology can address on a daily basis, like substantial inflation, no means of storage of values and other things. These are elements which the global South experience on a daily basis, but we just are some sort of not accustomed to it. So I think for me, the clouds became the symbol of blockchains. It's like it's moving permissionless across borders, it's intangible values, it's at the same time a very fragile construct, right? Because it's a belief system which manifests, but if people would stop believing in blockchain as a system, as a social consensus, people would disconnect their nodes and this whole space could just evaporate. At the same time, it's a beautiful analogy because art or clouds in particular have been part of art history since hundreds of years, and it's a very appealing, calming symbol which works across cultures and lures for me people into approaching this as an art project, but then really learning about these technical aspects which are mostly the deterrent for a lot of people entering the space, because there's just so many new things to learn, so many new terminologies, that it just feels appalling to people just starting out. And I think for me, the cloud became like as my little bait of getting people into looking a little bit behind these structures and technologies and discovering what it actually could mean for the society as a whole.
Thank you, Martin. That was wonderful. And I would love to really hear more from both of you. Thank you so much for your contributions to how we can redefine Web3 and where we're going with it, and also what is like the wider scope of it. I think now we're coming to the last topic, which is artists, platforms, and digital curation. Anastasia, where are we going?
We'll see Martin and Debbie again at the roundtable. You could see them already like scrolling through the questions from the audience and accidentally putting them on screen. So now we are joined by Alex, who I'm going to add to stage now, and hopefully Kika. There's been a lot of drama about technology. Technology is great, but when it fails, it really stresses everyone out. So let's see how it works. Jonas, please feel free to introduce the speakers, and Kika, please unmute yourself if you can.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Kika. I'm really happy to lead with you into our last segment of this webinar. Aleksandra, I've known you since like my own start into the NFT and Web3 world. Like I think we were in touch 4 years ago. You've been back then yourself with .art, like one of the first employees, and I think you were already also heads over heels into Web3. And by now you are heading Tezos, Trilitech art venture, and you have also founded some art projects that were like impact projects really for Ukraine, where I think you're also from. I think that's really amazing, and I also think you've been working closely with Kika. Kika, you're the head and curator of Object.com, which is, I think, Tezos' biggest NFT marketplace, which is super well curated. Like you've been also doing great work with your curations on Object One. You recently added galleries to Object One, I think, or to Object.com moreover. And I think your journey is very interesting because you started as a filmmaker and artist, and you went on to like working in the space, being an artist yourself, curating and working with artists, getting them on the platform. So I love that you're both here in this last segment, and that we're going to explore more like the ins and outs for artists and which platform to choose, and like maybe tell me a little bit more about your journey and where you're now and where you're going, Aleksandra.
Well, you outlined my journey quite nicely. So yeah, for those of you that don't know me, I'm the head of arts at Trilitech, and Trilitech is sort of adoption hub for the Tezos ecosystem. We have different verticals. So we have gaming, arts and culture, and DeFi. And in the arts team, sort of our focus is across many different things. Oh, wow, we got zoomed in really quickly. So I would say across three major things. So one is supporting our builders network and infrastructure. So Object is one of many platforms building on Tezos with the focus at art. We also have Thea, we have FX Hash, Edit Art, and a lot of sort of like individual experimentation. Then we have wallets, we have indexers, and it all needs, you know, hands-on help and connecting people. And then at the same time, we sort of manage, oh my God, hundreds of artists exhibiting around the world throughout the year to make sure that we're giving them opportunities to grow. And it starts from small scale activations to museum work. So we just came from New York, my team, and we have a partnership with the Museum of Moving Image, where in partnership with the Processing Foundation, there's a 4-month show focusing on generative arts. At the same time, we had an event at Bitform's Gallery in New York City, bringing the Quantal Paintbox from the 80s for artists to get a chance to play on the first ever digital tool that David Hockney used, and back in the day, only people from like MTV had access to. So it's really about empowering and education. And it's definitely a lot. Our team is not super massive, and we're already planning for Lisbon, for Basel in Miami, NFT NYC. And I think it's fascinating because my background has always been at the intersection of art and technology. And in the world we operate in, you have different kinds of communities. So you have the digital community. It's people who are who traditionally were illustrators, game designers, and for them, being a fine artist was a bit like almost like not a thing. And a lot of it is like the early Tumblr communities, and people just want to connect and have fun and share their work. And a lot of these like people just rose to success, but at the end of the day, they want to have fun with their friends, and including myself. I spend so much time just chatting to artists and enjoying the common themes. And then the second part is a bit different. It's more the fine art. So it's more artists who are deliberately creating with the end goal to be either represented by a gallery or to be in a fine art museum. And the truth is, and I think the main reason I sort of entered this world is because the traditional model was never fair to artists creating with technology. If you look at the key writers, if you look at the staff at museums, most of them don't know how preservation works, how exhibition works, and there were like small separate galleries. And I think what blockchain really, and I used to sell digital art before blockchain, before NFTs. So just comparing the two, what essentially blockchain did was allow a sense of ownership. And I think like for it really just comes down to like that bare minimum on which we can continue building this conversation is, I remember digital artists that barely sold anything, all of a sudden were recognized. And it gave an incredible amount of confidence to collectors as well, to know that this piece is issued in this edition size, and they see a direct connection with the artist. And if the artist creates another one, they will know. Like, unlike in photography where, you know, you buy a 1x1 print and then the artist makes the same one, but like 20 centimeters smaller. And you know, you're like, well, damn it, I thought I had a rare piece, but now there are like a million others. And also in terms of like just verification, like how many scams we saw at the most fine and premium art fairs where it turned out to be fake because someone faked like the record. So I do think like in its purest form, it's funny people make fun of blockchain as like a scam because it's actually anti-scam. You can track everything. Like all the biggest scams, you can still track them. And so I'm going to pause here. I'm sure you have questions.
Yeah, like I think that's really boiling down to owning, you know, like the owning part of Web3. We came from writing Web2 and reading only Web1. No, like now, like what you think, like from like Tezos as a chain for artists, like how would you see this like in the future? Like how like I think in our audience there are a lot of artists like on .art domain, there are a lot of artists that are unsure of should I make an NFT? Is it too late? Is it too early? Who is it for? Why NFT? You know, like these very like I think base questions, and I think you're just in the right spot to answer this. I mean, like also, of course, a little biased, like getting people into Tezos ecosystem, but maybe just like from a standpoint from like your experience as like also having been an artist and selling artworks digitally, like where do you see this space going, and like what's your recommendation to the people that are listening right now?
I think it like something that I noticed very early on, like 2021 when the NFT started to be hypey, is a lot of traditional artists wanted to drop an NFT as a way to just like be relevant and make money. And you know, this is like, is that why you chose to be an artist in the first place? Like, I don't think anyone chooses to be an artist to be rich, right? Well, ideally, all of us do, but to me, I guess it's a purist standpoint where you do art because it's an extension of your vision and your practice, and a lot of artists deliberately choose their medium. And so I would say it has to make sense. Like first and foremost, it has to make sense. And something I've observed is for everyone, they have their own storyline. If you're working with digital tools, it typically makes sense because that's the native medium. For some artists, for example, they don't work with digital tools. They work with oil painting, but then they sometimes start experimenting, bringing that oil painting and sort of like custom software to make it more native to the web. But in those cases, what people really come for is the community. And I think the community plays such an incredible role, especially when it comes to art on Tezos. I think we have the most long-standing, like anything close would be probably the Rare Pepe community, because they were quite early and they continue to be very strong force. But the Tezos community has been very strong, and honestly, partially, I have to give a very big credit to people at the foundation who have invested in residencies and festivals. I mean, a lot of people have seen Tezos at Art Basel, at events around the globe. So at the same time, invested in infrastructure and platforms to withstand, you know, the bear markets and continue supporting artists. You know, that doesn't go unnoticed. So there has been a genuine interest in maintaining that community, and I think it continues to stand strong. And it's a very large focus of what we do. Obviously, we need to grow and we need to sort of like bring more people in. And the reason for that is, I think as any different online community we saw like during the Web2 era, those that persisted are those that continued to innovate and grow. Because things move fast, and something that worked a year ago doesn't work now. And I see people asking about IP and consumer things. I think this is one of the many reasons we need to continue growing. Like that first phase has sort of like brought a certain group of people in, but if we want broader adoption, and we are seeing this, like, I don't know if people have used Teia, which is another marketplace, which has actively, I'm part of a work group where they continuously discuss best practices to address these things. And I don't think there's going to be one solution. I see many different sort of like across different ecosystems, people trying to bring new experiences. We also have to be completely honest about the fact that a lot of collectors right now, some of the biggest collectors, made their money on cryptocurrencies and speculation. And, you know, if you're coming into digital arts and you're famous in the traditional world and you think magically your art's going to start selling in Web3, that's not the case. It's different communities. You have to start building your audience. Like I studied at Sotheby's art business, and even there people were saying, if you have a domestic strong market, it doesn't mean in another country you're going to have a successful market. And this is no different. Like you can have a successful market in one area, but you still need to build your network. And another thing to be ready for is, traditionally, if you work in a real world, it takes you a month, several months to create an artwork, and then essentially you probably have enough for a show to sell to 5-10 people. With the digital tooling, it's a little bit different, where sometimes the time to create an artwork, like some of the artists in our network create an artwork every day, and hence they sell it for a much lower price, but they're able to sell every day as well. But also the edition sizes, right? It's not just unique works, because one digital artwork can be replicated in the size of 100. And so these different dynamics is also something to get used to. And whereas there's probably, you know, a small amount of people who can afford to buy high-priced works in unique edition, there's a massive, massive tail of people, everyday people, that buy for a smaller amount larger edition. So definitely, if it's sort of your first venture into this world, I would always encourage to sort of like do a larger edition for a smaller amount, because then you will have people who discover you, are able to afford, and almost become sort of like your advocates, supporting you and feeling that connection of ownership. That's how at least I started. But I started 4 years ago selling for like 20 cents because there wasn't even a selling button at the time, I think.
It's a really good recommendation, I think, like, and I believe that's also how I see it myself, you know, like, you need to build the community, or you have a community that already exists. And by now, I believe strongly you need like the physical world as well as the digital world. Like, you need to bridge those. Like, you can use it as a community token for your collectors or your fans more, that maybe are not able to afford your physical world. In the physical world, like, it's maybe more expensive to produce an artwork, and then you change to digital, and you like kind of invite them into this digital space. And like, I think Kika, like, you were off for a little, but I still want to hear you out. Like, I hope you were listening into Alex's amazing like insights, and I think you also have a lot to say to artists that want to join this space. And like, maybe just some words from you before we are going to change and switch to our open table and hear the Q&As of our audience.
Yes, I'm sorry. Today I really had some internet issues, and of all the days, right? Anyway, I did hear a bit of Aleksandra, and I think she did a brilliant job trying to convey a little bit how our community is working, how Object and how the Tezos ecosystem works. And I think there's one of the things, I mean, I'm just trying to look back at my own journey. You know, I've been a full-time artist for over 20 years, and my main media was always video. So I struggled my whole life to sell my work because it's video based. Even though I was represented by galleries, sometimes I even had to like educate the galleries how to sell video. And at the same time, I was always working a lot in self-promotion, also working a lot in writing for grants to get money for my projects. So one of the biggest, I think, advices I have for artists starting is that they know that any new ecosystem you enter, or any artistic endeavor that you're going to start, you need to do your own research. You know, you need to understand what is this ecosystem about. It needs to take some time. It's not going to be magical. We need to look a little bit at the platforms, the NFT platforms. You need to look at the other artist profiles. And the good thing is everything is transparent. I mean, all everything it's on chain, everything is transparent, meaning every transaction, you can see the history in every piece of art that is there. An object, for example, you can see who bought, for how much, how many editions, did the artist raise the price or made it lower, or you can see all this. So you can understand also how each artist is trying to deal with their own marketing, and also their own how they price themselves, how they deal with this piece is not moving, is not selling. What do they do? Do they react to that? Do they try to make their edition smaller? Do they try to make cheaper, or not at all? And so all of this you can analyze. So I myself, I took about 3 months of looking at the space And I started looking at it in 2000, like mid 2021, when it was at the total hype, and I just hated the whole thing. I hated everything. I thought it was not for me. I didn't understand the whole speculation side. I didn't understand this like enormous exaggerated prices for like pieces that an artist that was just starting. So there was a lot of things that I could see was not for me. And then once I was introduced to the Tezos ecosystem, things started to click, and I started to understand that the most important thing about this ecosystem is the community. And I just loved how generous it was, how all the artists were helping each other, how the artists collect each other, how collecting is more than just buying art, is a mix of crowdfunding and collecting. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's a social experience, collecting, because first of all, because it's visible, everybody sees what everybody's collecting, but also because on Tezos there's a lot of art which is affordable, so the entry point to collect is it's much more inviting. And so myself, I've always curated on the side of being an artist, and suddenly I became a collector as well. And there's a whole hybridization. It's became hybrid, all the roles. So being an artist, a collector, and a curator it all makes sense. It all clicks together. And as you fall in love with everybody's art, you start also being contaminated by everybody's art. So also you evolve and you experiment in different ways with your own art. And so it's a very, very rich ecosystem.
I love the point that you are like saying that this community is really helping each other. The artists are helping each other. And like, I think we have a lot of questions waiting for us that we want to answer, or we should all answer together in order to help the .art community and all our audience listeners that were commenting. I think, Anastasia, you were already choosing a good question in the meantime that we should address in the panel.
Yes, I have, correct. So to the speakers, if you guys are around, please come back. We're going to answer some questions now. But actually, I would like to start by sharing a comment from the audience, which I thought was quite nice. Here is Pau de Castro, I'm sorry if I'm reading your name wrong, who says, I work with land, large-scale approach to ecological restoration. To me, NFT is a very useful concept and operational asset to convey the message that most things are non-fungible, including life. And then he says, and as well as an artist, my work is both digital and physical, so NFT is very useful to extend its reach. So this right here is a very great example also of how NFTs answer some eco questions, and just about how it creates opportunities that weren't there before. But to just kick off the roundtable, there is a very basic question here somewhere, and I'll put it on the screen if I find it. But basically, the question was, oh, here it is. How much is the minimum budget to launch a successful NFT project? Which is a great question, I think, because a lot of artists think they need a budget or it has to be big. So whoever wants to take this on, please do.
I think it really depends. Are we talking about the collectibles or are we talking about art? Yeah, those two, I would really separate them. So if we're talking about art, like art, I wouldn't say you really need a budget. I would say you need time to create the work, time to build an audience. That is extremely important. And sort of like, I think it typically takes, definitely a few months of actually being part of the ecosystem and helping others succeed and connecting and having meaningful relationships before releasing your own art. Okay, I'm not going to speak to the collectibles because I saw it's about art. But I think Kika maybe can add a bit more what she observed on object.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends of the blockchain and the platform, to be honest. So I've created art on, 5 different platforms, or 6 or 7, I don't even know, and in 4 different blockchains. And definitely, for example, if you are on a platform on Ethereum, which is one of the blockchains, I have spent, for example, 200 euros more or less, to mint. Mint means to make an NFT, a collection of 5 NFTs. So that's a big budget for certain artists and in certain countries, especially. For me, it was. By the other hand, to make a collection on Tezos, on Object, you need about €2 to make a collection. So it's a huge difference. And that it's, when we talk about inclusivity, that's another, I think, one of the big reasons why our ecosystem is so diverse. I mean, because we have a really very strong community coming from the Global South. Also, because a lot of those artists simply didn't have the budget to go and spend €200 to create a collection. And we are just more rich for it, just have this amazing artists coming from basically all over the world. And when I say all over the world, means all parts of the globe, not just an artist from Brazil, but an artist from the jungle in Brazil. That's really what I mean by being, diverse and inclusive.
We have a comment exactly from one of the parts of the world that is not so obvious to maybe like the Web3 community, but there has been a question raised from someone in the Ivory Coast of Africa. I think that's really interesting. No, he wants to know where can he connect with which website, with which community, and he knows OpenSea and Rarible, but it's really difficult for him to connect, probably also because of those high minting fees. Back then they were really high when you remember like 2022 on the hype. Then I think, but I love Tezos for that, and I think also Object. Like maybe you can say a little bit, tell Frank how he can go about this.
Basically, Object.com is an open platform, so anybody can create a profile and start making art. It has you don't need to be invited, and you're not going to spend a lot of money, but you do need a little bit of Tezos in order to be able to make, because everything you do is a transaction, let's say. So if you create a collection, it's a small transaction that is gonna cost you about €1. So sorry, I'm talking euros because I'm in Europe right now, but yeah. But if you make an NFT, you're gonna spend a few cents, and not gonna even feel it, but you need this in your Tezos wallet. So you need to create a wallet, which is actually very simple. You can do a social login with a wallet like Kukai, for example. All of those things, I know it sounds foreign, but if you go to the help of Object.com, you go to the help section, and then everything is explained there.
I think that's actually one of the beauties. If you go to the, like on Kika's actual name, under the headline, it says the name of the website. And the best part is, if you don't have a wallet and you click login, like just to test it out, you can literally use your Gmail or your Twitter, like to log in and create a wallet, and let's go. And I think that is such a great onboarding exercise as compared to, like, for a lot of people remembering the seed phrase, like they just forget it, like when it's their first time trying NFTs. So I think definitely as a test, like that's a really great way to go. But then I would encourage everyone to learn about wallets and security and storage if you progress further.
I would like maybe to point out one thing which I found interesting, because he mentioned that it's harder to connect with the community. I think it's important to remember, that the community become a little bit more closed after, a lot of people tried to come in and extract value. So people would come in, just try to, generate some sales and disappeared. So people got quite a bit more skeptical of newcomers. That doesn't mean that it's impossible, but I think, you have to basically show up for a while, and you have to contribute to the community before you can ask to extract from it. And I think this would help you to connect more by really, being part of it, participating in it, encouraging people, contribute, give and receive, and try to learn about the people who participate, what they stand for, what they're trying to achieve. That will make it much easier for you to connect.
Or
Great.
read the book also of Debbie Soon, Digital Mavericks. I think you also give a nice kind of guide with it into this space. Anastasia, maybe we have another question. Do we have time?
Yes, we have time for one more question, which I wanted to address to maybe Debbie and Markus, because the question is, I see advantages and the new possibilities, but I would like to hear what the benefit is for someone to pay real money for an NFT. So Markus, of course, because you're selling those at the kiss.art, and Debbie, you've had a lot of experience with this. Please.
Sure.
Yeah, I can jump in here. I think that is a great question. But I would like to say that I never consider myself, so I'm not, I mean, I have like some creative pursuits, but I don't consider myself an artist. Like I write, I guess. But I would say the other thing is that I never really consider myself an art collector before entering the world of NFTs and getting the opportunity to really connect with so many artists from around the world. I think I always thought that, oh, art collecting is only for people who are like have a lot of money or have like a lot of space in their home. And I grew up in like a small city, like, you know, where like the apartments were like 400 square foot. And so I was like, well, it's pointless for me to become an art collector and never be able to really be able to do that. And I think like after I've really kind of formed like relationships with artists, like not only have I discovered art that I like, I actually want to own them and collect them. And I think there's also a lot of technology that is emerging right now that so such as like the White Walls app, which is an app that you can have on your smart TV, where you can only display digital pieces that you actually own. So you can't just display like anything like that you can get from the internet, for example. So I think one thing is that there really is like a bigger audience. If you have somebody that has never dabbled in NFTs before, and again, like everybody else has had such great advice, like, you know, don't necessarily come into the space expecting that, oh, you know, you're going to make like all of this money like overnight. But I think what it does do is that it opens you up to a brand new collector base. And there are a lot of collectors out there who actually like collecting art on the blockchain. And, you know, if up until this point, your main channels of distribution has been like Instagram or, you know, or TikTok or whatever it is that you're currently using, you might find that there could be a whole nother group of people that will develop appreciation for your art. Another answer in terms of like what is the benefit for someone to pay real money for an NFT is that I think similar to how we like to, you know, like we collect people who collect art, like I think for the most part, unless you're collecting something that's super valuable, you don't expect to collect it and then sell it like a day later or sell it like a week later and make a profit off of it, right? You collect something because you like it, or you collect something because you really want to support the artist and you want to fund their careers. And so a lot of the times, like I find that I get and this is somebody as a buyer, not really a seller, I find that on the buying side of things, I want to buy an NFT of someone because I really see their potential. And if I love their art, and whether it's $10 or $100 or like $500, if there is something little bit that I can do to give them the encouragement to know that, hey, your work is good enough for somebody to collect it, and your work is good enough that I want to have it in my wallet or on my screen, and B, I have the funds to really kind of support you and champion your work, then I want to do that for you, right? So I think there is a lot of that as well. And I think, you know, it's always unique in the art world, right? Like, is there like a practical benefit? Like, you know, I think most of the times for art, it really comes down to the emotional side of it. And so yeah, that's kind of what my perspective is on the question.
And also the aesthetical side, I think. No, Kika, as you have been advising me so well on a Swiss bank that actually has a budget for buying digital art as NFTs and exhibits it in their lobby on a huge screen. I think we're getting to a time where it's also possible to show your art, you know, like you have your screen at home, like you can just like, maybe some thoughts of you. Why would people pay real money? Like, thank you so much, Debbie, for your insights. I think, Kika, maybe you want to say something about that.
Oh, I totally agree with Debbie. And to be honest, at first when I entered the space, I was like, why would I buy an NFT? So the first thing I did before even creating an NFT was I started to buy, to understand, you know. And then I I fell in love with the whole thing. And so somebody, .art shared my collection on the comments. You guys can see I have now over 4,000 pieces that I collected over the years. And I'm not rich. I'm just an artist who fell in love with collecting and decided to invest a lot of my own income is in collecting. And I'm very proud of this collection. And actually, I've been showing it in physical exhibitions, and it's and you also get somehow recognition for your collection. People start to to respect you, and like I said, I mean, curating and collecting becomes this like two sides of the same coin. And like I've been doing with you, Jonas, it's a great pleasure for me to help other curators who are not so familiar with the Tezos ecosystem, or collectors, to find to navigate the sheer huge amount of art that we are offering. And sometimes it's a bit overwhelming in the beginning. And so this is really great pleasure, and to understand in which context. So when you came with when we start chatting and you told me this situation that you had in your hands, I mean, it's this huge screen, and it's what's the size, what's the aspect ratio, how we're going to play the NFTs, and we even got together we even implemented a little tool on Object to a presentation tool, thanks to our conversation. So this is just such a rich interaction, and I really love. And right now I'm like, today I was building this also like a PDF to make a suggestion of pieces for a very traditional collector who loves digital art but is very new to NFTs. And so there's another profile, which type of pieces this person is looking for. And we have so much. We have, I think it's something, I don't know if you touch upon that, but we have photography, we have glitch, we have GIF, we have abstract painting, we have figurative painting, we have illustration, animation, code art, AI art. So it's just so much that we can actually cater to a lot of different tastes and audiences. And so I'm very excited about collecting NFTs. Sorry.
Your collection will end up in a museum, maybe in the Belvedere. Anastasia, you're sorry.
Yeah, I wanted Markus to answer this question. I know that Alex wanted to chip in as well. So Markus, go ahead, and then
Yeah, just very briefly, I totally agree to both of you. Also, what Debbie said, I can just say it's about the love for art. In our case, it's a very clear appreciation for the artwork. In our case, you also get to dedicate your NFT to your loved one. You can write a love message attached to the project, so you always will remember this very special NFT, and probably this special moment you've seen it in real life, and you create connection. And the same answer with buying art is, yes, also NFTs is about emotions and making a connection. In our case, it's a collectible of an art piece, and even with NFTs that are real art or artworks, generative artworks, also there, it's about creating a connection and appreciating art. That's the field we are in, and that's the beauty also of collecting NFTs, as you said before, Kika.
Alex, on to you. You have the last word in this webinar, please.
I'll be quick. 2 points. First, why would you collect art in the first place? That was my first reaction. Why collect art? Like, it's the same. Is it digital? Is it physical? I mean, it's art. But second part is, I think we already spend most of our lives online digitally anyway. More people see this work online. Like, half of the traditional art is in storage anyway. But I think I'll just share my example. Is I started collecting generative art before NFTs, and now the print is somewhere in Ukraine and I have no access to it, and great. But all my like online collection, I have it. And I was able, for the first time in my life, to afford works by museum artists because, well, thankfully they're still alive and they're sharing their work for sale through ownership. So one example is Lorna Mills, like one of the first artists I knew about because of the Whitney Biennial. And all of a sudden, after reading about her in the textbook, I see she's dropping NFTs. I mean, if you appreciate art, like that's the first thing you would do. But then also, I think like the community side is amazing, but if you don't have time to spend time online all day, I understand. But there are also people who extremely appreciate like the historical developments of technology. And I'm just sharing a few links. Like I made a curation about the people who created digital art in the first place were scientists and engineers and programmers. And this started in the 50s. And the most fascinating thing to me, when I started on Tezos, I released the collection by Mike Tyka. And like there are other artists that essentially pioneered technology. Like they developed tools that sort of like helped AI, for example, grow 10 years ago. And they are alive and they're creating work. And I think having ownership of these pieces, to me, it's like you have ownership of history. So the social component is one thing, and supporting emerging artists and growing artists, but at the same time, having ownership of history, where, you know, the artists that contributed to systems that are now used across the world is absolutely fascinating. I'm going to pause. I know I didn't have much time.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you so much, everyone. It was great to have you here, and I'm sure the questions are going to keep coming in the comment section for days to come. So perhaps we'll have to do this again, and I'd love to do that. So thank you for being here. I'm going to take you off the stage one by one, and Jonas and I will just wrap this up. Until next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
All right. Well, I think this was incredible. We've covered so much, and yet it seems like we covered so little because there's so much more to talk about. What do you think?
Yeah, I really loved all the different insights that we gained through like having such a variety of market players and experts, and you know, like coming from all sides of the industry, from all parts of the world, from very different backgrounds, also from very different like, you know, kind of education, you know, like I think that has been fascinating to me, and we find them all again in this space. I think it's a very interdisciplinary space. As Aleksandra just pointed out in the last comments, the first digital artists were actually scientists and programmers, you know. So yeah, for me, it has been a great time, and a great time moderating this and learning from all those answers for myself. I'm going to take a lot.
Yes, likewise. And I loved what Alex said. I loved what Amir said, that it's not the technology is not the train, it's the tracks, actually. So that's something to keep in mind. So there is no such thing as being late to the train, because it's really is the underlying technology of so many things that you can do. Yeah, it was also fascinating to have somebody from the museum community, which is a rare thing, to talk about it and how they came around to moving such an institution into Web3.
Yes.
Just to wrap up, a little ad break, but before that, Jonas, I'd love to thank you for moderating this and for being part of .art with Callistic.art. Answering somebody's question in the comments, Jonas does have a physical space in Zurich, so his project is not just digital, so feel free to connect with Jonas via Callistic.art for projects and partnerships. I can't remember who was asking, but somebody was.
Yes, please connect, and then we can meet up. If you're in Zurich, you're always welcome to come by. We're just here next to the main station at Europa Allee, and would love to touch base. Thank you, Anastasia.
Bye. And last but not least, remember that .art domains are Web3 compatible and gasless, so you can connect your crypto wallet, you can connect your IPFS content, and fully integrate with Web3, and all without extra costs. We have a promo code for the viewers of this webinar. It's WAGME. We're all going to make it, as they say in the community. With this promo code at www.get.art, you can get 50% of premiums or even your free standard domain for free. It was lovely to have all of you here. We are coming up on an hour and a half, I think. I wish I could continue this conversation because it's been incredibly educational. Your questions, please keep leaving them in the comments section, because our team will be having a look at those and we'll try to address them with our panel experts and other community members via blogs, webinars, and other mediums that we have. Thank you so much, everyone, and goodbye.